everybody, it's Tristan Shuffles here, back with another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel deck profile, and before we get into this deck list, remember to like, comment, and subscribe because it really makes a difference for the channel. This week, the previously OCG exclusive Magistus cards arrived in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, and this engine helps to push Raziel even further than what Fiendsmith was able to do last month. Let's take a look here. We've got Spenta the Magistus Sealer, which allows you to add one Magistus monster from your deck to your hand by discarding it, and you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one face-up monster you control to equip one Magistus monster from your extra deck or graveyard to it as an equip spell. So this allows you to equip something like Artemis the Magistus Moon Maiden to one of your rank 4 Xyz monsters, and that will give you an additional search of another Magistus. Or you can convert it into Magistus Chorozo, which is a level 4. So without Eclipse Twins, this is an easy way to turn a rank 4 into a level 4 so that you can continue to make the best possible plays that Raziel is capable of producing. If you're lacking a normal summon but you have Spenta, you can also add Zorua, the Magistus of Flame, which will special summon back the Spenta, giving you an instant rank 4, and you can set up something like Raziel Duo Drive, and your opponent will be wasting hand traps very early on in the turn so that your Raziels can play entirely uninterrupted after the Magistus combo either gets you to Duo Drive or eats all of your opponent's hand trap cards so that they have no more interruptions. Mixing things up with our own hand trap lineup this time, I'm going with 2 Mulcharmy Perulia. This is just an automatic draw, it feels like, most of the time, because your opponent's going to be normal summoning something from the hand. Against Malice, which is the top deck right now, they're going to be summoning March Hare from the hand, and they have to wait until main phase, so if you fire this off in standby phase, you'll be getting 2 guaranteed draws against Malice. So that is good to keep in mind, along with the classic 2 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and 3 Mulcharmy Foolos, because you really need to draw into your Nibiru the Primal Being, or 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence in order to start to interrupt a Malice opponent, because they have so many resources, more than they've ever had, I think, in any other version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Paper play or otherwise. So it's tough to compete with that, but we've still got these Magistus cards like the brand new Crowley, the Gifted Magistus, which you can add off of Artemis, which gives you another special summon of a level 4. So you can make more rank 4s than ever before, which means that a lot of the time you're not only ending on Raziel Detonator with the Raziel Cross setup, Raziel Duo Drive, with maybe 1 material left at that point, but you're also ending on Starleech Photon Blast Dragon, which prevents targeting for those monsters you control with 2,000 or more attack. So 1 Infinite Impermanence is not going to stop your otherwise 4 or 5 material Raziel Detonator from doing its work on the field there. Additionally, if you don't find yourself in a position where you're Xyz locked, you can make Invoked Mechaba off of the effect of Crowley the Gifted Magistus when it special summons itself by its own effect, because you've got a lot of light attribute monsters in this deck. We've got the number 104 Masquerade, so that you can search for your Raziel cards with 7 Tachyon. You can also search Spenta with this as well. So if you've already used your Raziel cards, 7 Tachyon is not as useless as it would be in other Raziel variants. Then we've got Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. Yes, this is a Light Fiend. I didn't have it in my Raziel Fiendsmith version, but I am playing it in this because I think its effect is still pretty useful and allows you to clear out the entire Malice board if they've used their 1 Ignister Negate already. Tornado Dragon to deal with spell and trap cards. Number 41 Baguska the Terribly Tired Tapir if you get stuck. Infernal Flame Banshee. A lot of people have been cutting this, but I think that if you've already used Duo Drive, now that you have this additional rank 4 generating engine in the deck, it is a much better bridge between the Magistus cards to get you to your Pyro Ryziel monsters than it was in other versions of the deck. Then we have Meteorologic Aggregator, which you send off of X Ryziel, Super Star Slayer Typhon to stop your opponent's detonator and other monsters with more than 3,000 attack, and because you will often be linking off a level 4 spellcaster into Artemis, you can special summon SP Little Knight if your opponent has something like Dimension Barrier or something else getting in the way of your Xyz monsters. With that all out of the way, I think the best way to show off the synergy between these new cards and the Ryziels is to see it in action, so let's get into those games! First up, we have a duel in the Ryziel Mirror Match. Our opponent is not on the Magistus cards, and we are going first. Let's start things off by using the Ice Ryziel, and they negate that with Infinite Impermanence. That's okay, because we have Spenta in hand, so we can send that to the graveyard for another search. They have Ash Blossom. By this point, they've exhausted 2 of their hand trap cards. We banish Spenta, get Artemis, get Crowley, special summon Crowley, then we're into the Ryziel Duo Drive, and they've already wasted their Imperm and Ash Blossom that they could have used on the Duo Drive. We can bring out the X Ryziel. Since we only have rank 4s on field, we get that extra search. Special summon out the Sword Ryziel, special summon out Ice with its own effect, and Xyz summon into our own Ryziel Detonator. So now we've Detonator with 3 materials, and it's going to get 1 more material from the graveyard, the classic Meteorologic Aggregator. We can special summon out Node Ryziel, send the Mulch Army from our hand, and Xyz summon into Starliege Photon Blast Dragon to give us protection in case they draw a second Infinite Impermanence off the top of their deck. They start things off with 7 Tachyon. That's okay, they can search for X Ryziel there, and so we know the Meteorologic Aggregator is coming. They banish Ryziel Cross with Cross-Eyed Designator, meaning that we're not going to get the monster negate, so might as well start popping every monster that they manage to summon. They special summon out the Sword Ryziel. That is destroyed as well by our Detonator, and they have Ice Ryziel coming out here, and that's their normal summon. They've used that up. They special summon out Star Ryziel, and I knew that the last monster was the perfect one to negate with Meteorologic Aggregator, but they tried to dodge it with Called by the Grave, so might as well destroy it. They set Ryziel plug-in. They maybe could have gotten a draw from Ryziel Cross, but with just plug-in, they have to scoop it up from there, knowing that we had the stronger end board after exhausting all their resources. Alright, we've seen how Ryziel can perform in the mirror match, but what can it do against the #1 meta threat right now, Malice? Luckily, we are going first, so we can start things off with Bonfire to add Ice Ryziel. They don't seem to have Droll and Lockbird, so we can use Spenta to search for Zora. Normal summon out the Zora and attach the Artemis as an equipped card, and then they use Mulcharmy Fulos. We can negate that, but unfortunately they have the second Fulos. Okay, this means that when we have to go into the extra deck, we need to be careful by having the right number of Xyz materials and not waste any special summons or give them any extra draws. Let's use 7 Tachyon, put back the 7 Tachyon to bring out the Ryziel Duo Drive, and now we have X Ryziel in hand. There's Infinite Impermanence. They probably drew that off the top there. Anyway, luckily we have X Ryziel, which gives us another search. Since we only have a rank 4 on field, we can use Sword Ryziel to get Star Ryziel to attach that Spenta so that we can use its graveyard effect later, bring out the Ryziel Cross, and equip Artemis one more time there, and that way we can send it for Ice Ryziel, special summon out Photon Blast Dragon, and then we have targeting protection when we finally bring out the Ryziel Detonator, even though our opponent is coming at us with a 6-card hand and the best deck in the meta. They normal summon out Malice P. Dormouse, and it's best to negate this Chessy Cat from returning from banishment here. They go into Lingaribo. I felt like they had the Ad Ignister, but instead they special summon out the March Hare and banish Dormouse, and even with 2 material, they can't pull through because Detonator would just destroy the Splash Mage. Alright, you're probably thinking, yes, this deck is good at going first, but can it break a board full of negates going second? And I'm here to prove that it can. We start things off with Mulcharmy Perulia. Our opponent is on Millennium Crystron, which we haven't seen since Golem the Cards the Millennium Treasures was limited. They use its effect along with Sengen Jin. They've sacrificed 4,000 life points They use the Crystron Inclusion to add Crystron Sulfidor. They use Weiju Temple to set out the Snake Eyes Doom Dragon, and now they have a negate on board with their Galaxy Eyes. Okay, they bring back the Sulfidor, that's the card we must negate, but we don't have a way to stop it, so they can bring out the Sulfafnir, destroy that, bring out the second Sulfidor, Synchro Summon into Ella Skeletus, and use its effect to add back Crystron Thistvern to their hand. Then they banish the Crystron Smyger to add the Crystron Destruction trap card, and they special summon back the Sulfafnir to go into Cyber Dragon Nova and Cyber Dragon Infinity. We've only gotten one draw off the Perulia. They destroy Ella Skeletus and use its effect to get their Crystron Tristaros back on field, and they have the Ephédon Dragster to stop spell and trap cards. Okay, we can still break this with our 6-card hand here. Let's use Extra Raziel and bait out the negate from Galaxy Eyes right away by putting Meteorologic Aggregator on something else, basically forcing them to use it, right? They go for Crystron Cluster to destroy our X-Raziel because they don't want us to have any 4s on board. They brought out Axial Synchron. That's a level 5. They're going to try to Synchro Summon into Baronne de Fleur after using Ephédon Dragster. So I'm holding back my spell and trap cards using Spenta to add Crowley, especially summon out the Crowley. They decide that's what they want to negate with Cyber Dragon Infinity, so that's another negate down right there. We've normal summoned out Ice Raziel, we've Exceed summoned into Raziel Detonator, and we can special summon out the Node Raziel. Careful not to activate any spell or trap card effects here. We've got Raziel Duo Drive, time to destroy that Cyber Dragon Infinity, and the Ephédon Dragster, so now we can activate our spell and trap cards freely, like Raziel Cross that we've set up on the Star Raziel. They use Infinite Impermanence on Duo Drive. They must have been saving that for a while. Let's destroy Crystron Cluster while we have the chance, because otherwise they'll be able to destroy Raziel Detonator with that right away. Let's set up Artemis to get that extra draw into Spenta, or rather an extra search for the following turn, setting Called by the Grave and passing back to the opponent, who's pretty low on life points but can destroy us here if they play it right. They special summon out SP Little Knight, meaning they won't be able to attack directly this turn by using that first banish effect. So I have to make sure to negate this second banish with Raziel Cross, so that, again, they can't attack directly. Might as well bait out the Photon Lord negate while we have the Detonator on field, because it's about to be banished. Okay, they negate that, and we stop this banishment of our Raziel Duo Drive, and Detonator is able to destroy SP Little Knight, but its first effect resolves banishing a monster. We can use Meteorologic Aggregator. Let's negate that field spell where we have the chance, and then use Call by the Grave to banish their Sulfafnir. Okay, they have one card left in hand, but Crystron has a lot in the graveyard. They add the Crystron Tristaros, banishing the Smyger, adding Crystron Inclusion. They use Crystron Inclusion to add a second Sulfafnir. They destroy Inclusion with Sulfidor. They are getting their level 5s back on the field by banishing Inclusion, and now they have Citri and Tristaros, giving them enough synchro material for their Crystron Quarion Gandrax. So they banish some Raziels from our graveyard and Star from field, leaving us just with Duo Drive. They take with Triple Tactics talent, but they can't attack directly because I negated the correct SP Little Knight effect, and they've realized their mistake, and they surrender after that. So we're back with the deck list, and yeah, I think it worked out great. Having the Magistus cards made this deck feel so resilient, and you could tell that the opponent had no idea when to interrupt because they were unfamiliar with this new strategy and how it interacts so well with Raziel. That'll do it for this video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you all in the next one.